Hello there. Hope you're doing well. My name is Chinmay, and in this tutorial, I will demonstrate how to use Google Forms. Online forms like Google Forms are a great tool for conducting surveys, receiving feedback, receiving response to event invites, and so many other things. Google Forms is a great tool to create such online forms very quickly and for free. In this two-part tutorial, I aim to comprehensively cover everything that Google Forms has to offer. In part 1, I will demonstrate features of Google Forms 2022 that are needed to create and share forms. In part 2, I will demonstrate how to use Google Forms to create and administer an online quiz. Creating online forms is a great skill to learn. It can add great value in boosting your productivity. So let's start. So the first thing that we want to do when we are trying to create a Google form is to go to your Google Drive. You can reach your Google Drive in two ways. Just type in drive.google.com in your browser and log in with your Gmail ID, and you will be inside your Drive. Alternatively, you can log into your Gmail and then click on this grid icon here on the top right and then choose Drive. Just look for Drive in this set of icons and click on Drive, and you will reach your Google Drive space. So when you reach Google Drive, you can create a new folder. Just click on New and click on New Folder and navigate inside the folder. This is a good practice because your form that you are going to create will remain inside this folder, and you can easily find it later on by navigating to this folder. So to start a new form, just right click in this white area and then go down to Google Forms and then click on this. So you will be presented with three options. Option number one, that you will start with a blank form as opposed to starting with a template that Google Form provides you, and we will have a look at that in a second. The second option is that you can start a blank quiz. If you are wanting to create a quiz for your students or participants, you can start with a blank quiz. But we can actually convert a form into a quiz very easily. So this option may not be really very useful to start with, but if you are wanting to create a quiz, you can choose this option. And the third option is that you can pick up a template, and this usually saves a little time if one of the provided templates meets your needs immediately. For this tutorial, I will be basically working with a blank form. Let me show you quickly a few templates that are included with Google Forms. So let's click on this. So you have templates for party invites. You have templates for some work situations like creating an order form or a job application. And if you are in the education sector, you have a small assessment template or a worksheet template. So if any one of these meets your needs, you can just simply click on them and then tweak them to customize it to your needs, and you can save a little time. Otherwise, you can start with a blank template. So that is exactly what I'm going to do for this tutorial. So I can either click here, or if I was to go back, I can right click, go to Google Forms, and then choose a blank form. So I'm going to do this, and you are immediately presented with the blank form and the first question inserted inside. Now for this tutorial, I'm taking a hypothetical example. We are an academic institution, and we have recently organized a training for employees of different corporate organizations, and this training was on sustainability practices. So we now want to create a participant feedback form for this course and wanted to get their views on how the course was received such that we can improve upon this course. So this is the scenario for today. We will be creating a participant feedback form for a sustainability course that we had organized for participants or employees of a few corporate organizations. So the first thing that we need to do is to give a title to this form. So I'm going to type in a little title here. So I will just enter course feedback form. Now just notice that there's a little box here that says untitled form. If you were to revert back to your Google folder, you will find that this form is currently being shown as untitled form. And so what you can do is just click here and the course title will be reflected inside this box. And when you go back to your Google folder, you will find that the form is now called as course feedback form. So this is actually like the file name for the form that you're going to see inside the folder. It is not necessary that the title and the file name be the same. You can type anything here if you prefer. But then this is one of the important things that you need to make a note of. As you keep working, all changes will be automatically saved, so you don't have to worry about anything. You can just keep working. So we now have a blank form. It will be helpful if we can put in a little description about what this form is collecting or what this form is supposed to do. So I'm going to type in a little bit of text here describing what this form is for. So once you have done this, you are all set to go and start entering your questions. You will notice that there are 3 tabs on the top. One is questions. So using this tab, we can create a form, add questions, delete questions. On this tab, we can set how the responses will be collected. We'll come to that a little later. And on the final tab settings, we can make some settings about how this form will be presented. So we'll come to these tabs a little later. So let us start with the first question. Just click on this and it'll expand. And I'm going to start by collecting a few personal details like name and organization such that I can identify each participant. So I'm going to come here, click here in this box and type in my question. So the first thing that I want to do is to collect the name of the participant. Now, we are currently in the editing mode, so we can delete a question. If we are not happy with this question, we can just come here and delete it. And we can add it back again through this little toolbar. We can click on this plus sign and we will get back our first question and we can type in that question. So if you want to see how this form is actually going to look like, you can come and click on this preview button. So when you do that, it'll actually show you how this form will actually look like. Currently, it has just one question and it's just showing you your name, and people can enter information here and then press the submit button. As we keep adding more questions, more will keep appearing here. So we can just keep looking at the preview and seeing how the form will actually look like. I'm going to close this window and head back again into my Google Forms edit mode. And I just wanted to share a few things. Is it okay for participants not to give me their name? So that's not right. I need to know who the participant is. So if I want to make a question as a required question, which means that you cannot submit unless and until you provide an answer to this question, all I need to do is to just come and click here and switch on this required slider button here. And once I do this, and if I go to preview and check this out, you will notice that there is a little red asterisk and it says that this is a required question that needs to be answered before you can submit. If I was to press the submit button here, it will not submit the form. It will just come back and inform me that this is a required question and you cannot proceed for submission unless and until you answer this question. So let's go back. Now Google Form gives you an option of having a variety of different question types, and currently this is a short answer question type. As we proceed in this form, I will show you each and every question type. We'll try to make use of each and every question type here such that we can understand when and how these questions can actually be used. So let's head back again. Now I want to create a new question, so I can do that by adding a question here, clicking on this button. If the next question was very similar to the previous question, you can just click here and duplicate that question and tweak that question. Now, there can be a confusion when people are entering their names, because a name can be entered in many different ways. So you can provide a little helpful text and inform the person who is filling the form how you would like them to enter the name. So a small description would be very helpful. So you can come here and click on these three dots and add a description. So just click here, and you can then come here and add a little description. So I'm going to put in a little bit of text here. We can now go ahead and move forward and add a new question. So I'm going to click on this and create a new question. The second detail that I want to collect is the name of their company or their organization. So your organization. I'm going to keep this also as short answer text. This question type, short answer text, is used for questions where you need to respond with like a few words of text. So this is quite good. Do I need to make this required? I think so, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Do I need a description for this question? I think no, because this is quite self-explanatory. So I have now two questions. Both of them are mandatory questions. People need to fill them. I'm going to add another question here, and I want to now find out their area of expertise or the function in which they specialize. So I'm going to click on this and come here and add another question. And I'm going to come here and say your area of expertise. This question I'm going to make as a drop-down question. So a drop-down is particularly useful if you have a limited number of choices, and you can provide those choices, and the person who's filling the form can make a choice from that particular list. It helps you ensure that people who are filling the form do not make a spelling mistake. So I'm just going to come here and write a few options. Sales, finance, HR, manufacturing, other. You can just keep adding options. So once you have a drop down, if you are not happy with any option, you can always come here and click on it and delete it. You can later on add something. Come to the extreme left, you will see a set of dots. Grab hold of them, and you can move them and reposition these options quite easily. Grab it, bring it to a different position. They will be automatically renumbered. So you can do anything that you like with the options that you have entered. So once you have created this drop-down question, let us try to see how this actually manifests on the real form. We'll go and click on preview. So you will see here that we have a question, your name, they will have to type in the name. Your organization, they will have to type in the organization. Your area of expertise, they will have to make a choice. They will not be permitted to type anything. So they can just come here and make a choice. So I'm going to close this and head back again to my course feedback form. So I've collected enough personal details, and I can now move on to getting the actual feedback for the course. So I'm going to come here and you can add other personal information items like your mobile number or your email and so on and so forth. So I'm going to add now another question, and this is a set of questions about the actual course feedback. So I'm going to put in my question here. How would you rate our lodging and boarding facilities? Now, Google Forms automatically tries to understand what you are writing here and makes an attempt to pick up the correct question type for this particular question. As the word rate figures in here, it has automatically determined that the best question type to gather this information is a linear scale question. So many people like to call it a Likert scale. Google Forms already picked that up for you. So a linear scale is a scale from say 1 to 5. You can change it, make it from 1 to 10, whatever you want. By default, it is 1 to 5. And we are providing a scale from 1 to 5 to the participant, telling them to rate our lodging and boarding facilities, where 1 would be poor and 5 would be excellent. So would this be a required question? Probably not. We can permit people to get away with this if they don't want to answer this particular question. Any question that you want to be mandatory, you just have to come here and press this button. So this is quite self-explanatory. And let us have a look at how this manifests on the real form. Click on this. And you will see that this question, just after your area of expertise, which was a drop-down question, comes like this on the form. It says, how would you rate your lodging and boarding facilities? 1 is poor, 3 would therefore be just moderate, and 5 will be excellent. So people can come and pick this and provide their response on a linear or a Likert scale. So if you make an error, you can always choose something different. If you want to clear this selection, you can click here. All selections will get cleared. If you want to get rid of something that you have entered before, you can always clear your form and start all over again. And this is for the people who are filling the form. So let me close this window and come back here. So we have created a linear scale question. Let's move ahead and go with another question. So I'm going to click on this and add a new question. And this time around, I'm going to use multiple choice grid question. This is an interesting question type. It is actually many questions packed in one question. It saves you a lot of space, but you'll have to format this question properly. Let me just come here and enter my question. So my question is, how was the participant engagement in the core modules of this particular course? So let us say we had 3 core modules. So when you come here and change this question type to multiple choice grid, so you'll see 2 sections here. One is rows and one is columns. I'm going to enter my course module names here. This was my first course module. This was my second course module and third course module. Then we had some group exercises. And we also had a field visit. So I want to get the feedback on how engaging each of these course modules were for participants. So I've entered my course modules on the row side, and on the column side, I'm going to give them options. So the first option is low engagement. The second option is moderate engagement. And the third option is high engagement. So once I've filled this, I can just try to see a preview of this question. So you will see here that this question appears like this. All my key course module names are appearing as rows, and low, moderate, and high is appearing in front of each one of them. And the participant who is filling this form can say, okay, fine, the first module, key issues in sustainability, had moderate kind of engagement. Sustainable development goals, people were not really, they could not connect well with this module easily. Sustainability reporting module was pretty good. Group exercises were fun to do, and the field visit was also quite good. So in one question, you have packed in many questions, and you can gather a lot of information from a participant using a multiple choice grid question. So let me just close this and head back. Now there are a few options that you can choose. If you click this, it will ensure that one response will have to be given for every single row. So if I head back now to my preview and I can just try to have a look at the same question, I'm just going to clear this form and come back. When I click here, it will tell me that this question requires one response per row. So it will not let me proceed forward or submit this form if any of these rows are left blank. So in this way, I can ensure that all the rows have a response. So this is the only row that doesn't have a response, and it is telling me that it needs a response on every row. So the moment I provide a response here, this error message will go away and I can proceed and submit this form. Let me close this window and head back. So this is what a multiple choice grid question can do for you. It can pack in a lot of questions in one single question, and you can gather a lot of information. Let me go ahead and click on this and add a new question. And this time around, we will choose a checkbox grid. The thing about multiple choice grid is that it permits you to make only one choice per row. If you wanted people to make multiple choices per row, you can pick up the checkbox grid question. So the format is exactly the same. Let us type in a question here. We are now asking the participants how we can improve our core course modules. Just type in some of the course modules. This was one of our course modules, another course module, and we can then provide some options here in columns. So we can say include more case studies. This is in a bid to gather information on how we can make our course content more engaging. We can have more class discussion. So we can add one possibility here to improve the content. Then more hands-on training. We can invite a guest speaker maybe, or otherwise some person can say, no, it is good as it is. This is working exactly the same as the multi-grid question before, except that it will present checkboxes in place of radio buttons, and you will be able to make more than one choice on every row. So let us just go and have a look at how this works out. So in this case, previously we had these rows made out of these radio buttons, and you can make only one choice. When you click here, this choice will vanish. When you click here, this choice will vanish. In the multi-checkbox grid, you can make multiple choices per row. So in this particular case, when I recall the Sustainable Development Goals module, a participant might feel that a few more cases would have helped us understand the matter better. Maybe there could have been some class discussion, and a guest speaker would have been really nice. In the case of the second module, maybe a little more hands-on would have been better. Field visits were like really fun and quite nicely conducted, so they can remain as they are. Nothing needs to be done for field visits. So you can see that people can make more than one choices per row, and that is what the multi-grid does not permit, but then the multi-checkbox permits. They both are identical to implement, but then if you want people to make more than one choice per row, you can actually use the multi-checkbox question type. So here we are back again in our form. Let me add one more question here. So I've just pasted that question. Now this is going to be a multiple choice question. I'm just keeping it as a multiple choice question. So I'm going to say yes. Overall, the course met my expectations. If you click here it is going to add 3 things straight away. You don't have to type them. Just say add all. It says yes, no, maybe. And if you're not happy with maybe, you can just change it to something different. And if you want to rearrange it, you can rearrange it. So this is a multiple choice question. I can just open this. Let us see what we have covered. We have covered a short answer question, taking people's names and organization. We have covered a drop down question. We have just now covered a multiple choice question, and we have covered a linear scale question, multiple choice grid, multiple checkbox. So this is a multiple choice question. It permits you to make only one choice. So if we can just head back to the preview. So this is how the multiple choice question will look like. You can just come here and click on one of these choices, and that's just about it. If you click on another choice, the previous choice will disappear and the new choice will be marked. So this is how the multiple choice question will appear on the form. Now, if everything is fine, if there are participants who feel that the course met the objectives, they're going to say yes, but there will be people who might say partly or no, and we might be interested to get more feedback from those people. So let us add another question. Later on, we will try to see a mechanism to avoid this kind of a situation. We can present this question to only those people who fill partly and no. But for the time being, let's just move ahead with this. And because this can involve a lot of writing, the paragraph type question has been automatically chosen by Google Forms. And this question type is just like the short answer question type, only that it permits you to write as much as you want. So this is a long answer text. Let us add another question. So we are providing people to upload their own file. Say, for example, they have taken some pictures or they want to, give a very detailed feedback. So if you need more space, you can upload your detailed feedback via a document or PDF. Now this, we are going to come here and choose a file upload question type. So we can just come and click on this. And what this does is it permits people to upload a file from their computer and attach it with this form. So it's just telling you that it will permit respondents to upload files to your Google Drive. They will have to sign in to their Google account to be able to make use of this feature. So let me just press continue, and it will make this question open now for you. There are a few things that you can set. You can set how many number of files you will permit people to attach. By default, it is 1, which is usually good enough. It also permits you to choose the maximum file size. So the default is 10 MB, which is again good enough, but you can click on this and permit people to load files even up to 10 GB if that was easily possible. So you can also have a look at the folder where this attachment will be placed. So that's just about what you can do here. There's one other thing that you can do, is that you can allow only specific types of files to be uploaded. So when you click on this, you can choose what kind of files you want people to upload. In this particular case, I would like people to upload either a Word document or a LibreOffice document, and maybe a PDF file if they wanted to. If you feel that people can, speak in a video and upload audio or video, you can permit those kinds of files. So you can actually choose what kind of files people can upload. In this case, I feel a document or a PDF is good enough. So I'm going to click on those. When you go to preview and try to have a look at this question, you will see that this question has this little button. If you need more space, you can upload your detailed feedback via a document or PDF file from your computer and attach it to this form. So this is how a file upload question can be used. It can provide people an opportunity to upload their files. You can use it in many different creative ways, like asking people to provide a photograph or something like that. Let us now add another question. And so we have actually seen short answer, paragraph, multiple choice. We haven't yet seen a checkbox. We'll do that in a little while. We have seen drop down, we have seen file upload, we have seen linear scale, we have seen multiple choice grid, checkbox grid, and now we will just have a look at date and time. So let us just create a fictitious question. Now I'm going to come here and click on date. So it adds a date question. So people can come and pick a date from the calendar. For the time part, I will have to add another question. So I will come here and add a new question and then come here and click on time. So for the question part, I'm not going to enter anything. So it will appear as if it is part of the previous question. So when we go and have a look at it in the preview, this is how the question will appear. If we need to talk to you in the coming week, what date and time suits you best for a call? Date, you can click on it, it'll show you a calendar, you can pick a date, and time. The time question has an option. So that option is available from here. So it can either be time, so it could be like 10 a.m. So you can enter the time on a 24-hour clock. Or if you wanted a duration like 2 hours or 1 hour, if the previous question about time was like how much time can you devote for this activity per week. Now this is not something that you have to answer on the clock. We need to get a response from you about how many hours you can devote. So in that case, you can change the question, the time question, to duration. So when you actually go and have a look at it, you will find instead of the clock time, it is presenting you hours, minutes, and seconds. So you can enter like 10 hours, something like that. So the time question can either be a time on a 24-hour clock, or it could be a duration. In this case, we want to have a time when we can call, so we will let it be like that. Now, finally, I will add the last question in my feedback form. And this question is pertaining to future communications. So I can just add this question here. I'm wanting to ask the person, how would you like us to communicate with you in the future? The only question that we have not used so far is the checkbox. So I'm going to use that. And this is just like the multiple choice question, except that it permits you to check more than one entries. So I'm going to use the checkbox option here, and I can say newsletter, I can say email, maybe blog post, and so on and so forth. So let's just go and have a look at this. So this is how a checkbox question appears, and people can say, okay, fine, you can send me a newsletter, and maybe you can also send me emails. I wouldn't mind that. And that's just about it. So we have covered all the questions that are possible here, and I've shown you how you can use each of these questions creatively on a form. So once we have this form ready, we can organize this form in a much better way. Currently, what is happening is that while this form is live and you can send a link to people to fill this form, this is how it would appear. And all the questions are just coming one after the other, which is a good thing if that is what you wanted. But we have a small potential issue here. On this question, it says overall, did the course add to your skill set? So if somebody says yes, they need not provide us with a detailed feedback, and we need not ask them for a date and time of calling them. We want them to directly move ahead to this question and then submit the form, so they can avoid all these questions. But if somebody fills partly or no, under those conditions only, we would like those people who fill partly or no, meaning that the course did not meet their expectations fully, we would like them to see these questions. So how do we do that? We can do that quite easily in Google Forms by introducing sections. Before you introduce sections, the whole form is one section. It is just like one single big section. So what we can do is we can just visualize sections. So the first three questions pertain to personal information, name, organization, and your area of expertise. Then subsequently, we are having a section on course feedback, and then finally a section on communication. One section on detailed feedback if somebody says partly or no. So what we are going to do is we will come to the third question, which is where the personal information section ends, and we will come and click on this button here and add a section. So just after the third question, we have introduced a new section, and we will title this section as course feedback. And we can even select this text and make it bold such that it stands out. So this is section number 2. So this has one question on rating our boarding and lodging facilities. Then we have another on participant engagement, another question on improving the content, and the fourth question on overall did the course add to your list. So I'm going to click on this question, and beyond this question is a detailed feedback section. So I'm going to come here and click on this button. So the new section always gets added after the one that you have selected. So just come here and click on this. And this section we can title as detailed feedback. And like the previous section, we can make it bold. You can add a little bit of description here if you wanted to. So this will have question 1, which is saying, please provide your feedback. Then they can add a file, then the date and time. And then finally, this would be the last section where we are asking people to provide us a choice on how we can communicate with them in the future. So I'm going to come here and click and add another section here. And this will be, we can just title as future communication. So what we have done is we have created 4 sections in this form. This is the first section, and this does not have a title. So if we wanted to add a title here, we can just come here and click on this. So this is a title. We can drag and drop it on top here, and we can call this as personal information. So we have now created different sections. If we want, we can even label them as section 1, section 2, and so on and so forth. So what this does for you is that it will permit you to make a jump. So let us first go and see how creating section actually changes the way the form is presented. Let's go to preview. And so you will now see that your personal information, the 3 questions which were part of your personal information, there is a title here, personal information. And then it's saying, give me your name, give me your organization, choose an expertise. It's not showing you questions from the next section. To do that, you will have to press next after you have filled in, and only then you will be able to go on to the next set of questions. So it actually presents questions in sections and not all the questions in one go, which could be a good idea as well. So let's head back here. Now what sections also permit you to do is to make a jump to another section based on the response of the participant. I can come here and say, go to section based on answer. So I'm going to come and click here. So it now gives me options here. So it says, if somebody says yes, I want them directly to go to section 4, which is my communication section. But if somebody says partly or no, as the next section is the detailed feedback section, I am just asking them to continue to the next section. I could have, and this is section number 3. So I could have as well said, go to section 3, exact same thing, go to section 3. So once you have created sections inside a form, you can permit people to see different sets of questions based on how they are responding to a particular question. Let us try this out. Once we have done this, let us try this out. And I want this to be a mandatory or compulsory question, because unless and until they answer this question, we cannot move forward. So we will just come here and go to our preview and try to see how this looks. So I'm going to enter my name, and then I'm going to enter my organization. I'm going to choose an area of expertise. Now I'm ready to move forward. I can press next for the second set of questions. So this is the course feedback section. So it is asking me, how would you rate our lodging facilities? I'm going to say this, and I've already filled up the ones before. I can clear this form and fill them again. So now there are two options here. Overall, did the course add to your skill set? If you say yes and move on to next, it will just simply jump and go to the final question. How would you like future communications to be? And you can go ahead and submit. If on the other hand, you were to respond to this question as partly or no, and then press next, it will now take you to the detailed feedback section, where you will have to provide some response to how we can improve this course. You can add a file, and you can provide a date and time on which we can make a call. When you press next, it will then take you to the last section, and you can respond to that question and press submit. So this is a great advantage of creating sections. First, it will not present all the questions in one go, but more importantly, you can branch to a different section based on what people are responding to for a particular question. So now let us just pep up this form and improve its visual appeal. You can click on this button, and there are a few options here. You can change the color, the background. So you can choose a different color, for example, for your form. You can choose a different background for your form. It tries to give you suggestions that match with this particular color. So you can make that choice, or otherwise you can go ahead and choose an image. So when you do this, you have two options. There are lots of images that Google Forms itself provides for different occasions. So if any of these meet your needs, you can just simply come and make a choice, and you will have that image on top of your form, and the design will change according to the theme colors. You can of course make some choices in terms of how the section tabs are going to look like, and also have some choice in what the background will look like. The second option, if you're not happy with this, you can come and delete this, so it will revert back to what it was before. At any time, if you make a mistake, you can always come and click on this undo and redo buttons. So let's choose an image and take a second option. So you can also upload your own photographs. So you can just click here. If you had photos in Google Photos, you can do that as well. Just come here and then choose browse. So you can then upload an image from your computer, and that image will be uploaded. You can then just move this box around to include what you want. This is the maximum size permitted for the header. So you can just move it around and pick up the relevant portion from the image, and then just simply press done. And that image will then be added on to the form. So you can really customize and improve the visual appeal of your form. And when this form is presented to people, this is how it is going to look. So now we are almost ready to release this form. But before we do that, we need to come to the responses tab. By default, Google Forms collects and records these responses. But if we want these responses to be recorded in a spreadsheet, we need to click on this icon and then just go ahead and say create a new spreadsheet. So just go ahead and press create. And the form is now connected to a new spreadsheet. Whenever somebody fills in a form, their response will be recorded in a different row. So this is how you can connect your form to a spreadsheet, and you can come here and then download these responses on your computer. What you can also do is you can get an email notification for new responses. So if you wanted to be alerted when a new form has been submitted, you can come here and click on this, and you will start getting email notifications whenever a new form is submitted. Finally, we'll just come here and click on settings. So there are a few things that we need to do here. If you want to collect email addresses of people who are filling a form, which would eventually mean that to fill in a form, people would have to log in, you will have to switch this button on. Usually this is not a good idea. So if you want email from people, you can just come here and put in a question like saying your email, so they can fill this form without logging in. One thing that we need to do is to come here and click on presentation. This is in the settings tab, and give a custom confirmation message. When a person who has filled your form presses the submit button, they are shown this default response. Your response has been recorded. We can change this. So we can put in a custom submit message. Once you have entered your message, you need to press the save button. So just go ahead and press the save button. So when anybody will fill this form, they will be having a custom message that is a little bit more warm. There are a few other settings, but they are not really very important. So we will not go into those settings. You can explore them later on. For example, you can display a progress bar, which will show the person filling the form how many questions are remaining, and so on and so forth. Another important setting is limit to one response. So if you want people to just provide one response, you can switch this on. In this case, that's a good idea. I don't want one respondent to provide two responses. So they will not see a link after submitting the form to submit again. Responses once submitted cannot be edited. So this is quite okay. It's off. If we switch it on, then people can revert back to their submitted forms and change anything they want, which is not a good idea because then they would have to log in with their email. So this can be off. So most of the defaults are quite okay. So two things that I've changed. One is limit to one response, switched it on. And in the presentation section, after expanding it, I have provided a confirmation message, which is a custom confirmation message, pressing edit, changing the message, and then pressing save. So having done that, we are now quite ready to move ahead. So once we are all done, it's a good idea to test our form. If you go to responses and click on this, you will notice that the spreadsheet is empty. There are no responses as of now, which is something that we can see here. If you want to stop receiving responses, you can just click here and the form will stop becoming operative. You can switch it back again whenever you want. And if you want to reuse this form, you can always make a copy and delete all responses. So let's go and test this form, and I'm going to go into preview and let us go ahead and test this form. So I filled in my details here. I'm moving next, then filled in more details here. So answering each question, and then next. So I'm entering something here. I don't want to add any file. This is not a compulsory question, so I can get away with it. And in this particular case, I can agree to talk on, let us say, 11 a.m. on Sunday. And next. And then finally, section 4, how would I like to receive future communications? So newsletter and email. Now I'm going to go ahead and press submit. So as I do that, I get my custom message. It says, many thanks for your feedback. Your suggestions will help us make this course better. You can add something more. So once you are done, somebody has filled a form. You would receive an email notification if you had switch this on. And you can always go and see here. So Google Forms automatically creates a data visualization for various questions. As more and more people respond, this visualization becomes more detailed. If you want to go and see how the spreadsheet looks now, you can click on this one, and you will see that the first response has been added here. So for the grid questions, you will notice that each question has a separate column and the choice that has been made in that particular column. Every time a form is submitted, one row will be filled. If you want to see individual responses, you can come to this tab and have a look at individual responses. Otherwise, you can go and have a look at summary. So as more and more people fill this form, you can individually go and have a look at each form. You can print it, and you can also move question by question to see how people have responded. Currently, there's only one response, but then you can move question by question and you will see other responses available here as well. So once we have tested our form, we can come here and delete all responses. The moment we do that, this form becomes fresh, and we can then start circulating this form for people to fill it. If you go to the spreadsheet, you will find that the testing data is still available. So you can just select a row, right click, and delete it manually. And we are ready to go now. So this sheet is also fresh. So if you test it 4 or 5 times, you can just select all of them, delete them, and then just go ahead. And now we have a really clean spreadsheet, and also no responses recorded here. So you can just go ahead and collect all the responses. Now, there's one small point that I would like to cover. Google Form provides some basic level of validation at the time when people are actually entering or replying to a question. So this is not a very detailed validation, but at times it can be useful. Let us say I want to collect the age of every participant. So I can type in a new question, age. Now, because it's a short answer text question, people can happily enter 24 as letters. They can also enter 24.5, indicating that they are 24 and a half year old. So if I want to define some rules for what people can enter, I can come to these 3 dots and click on response validation. So response validation opens up a few possibilities for me. If you click on this, I can test for text, I can test something about numbers, I can test for length, and I can also write a small expression. Let us try this out. So this says age. So we are now validating the entry that the form respondent will put in here. So we are just saying that whatever is being put here, that number should be. So you have a lot of options here, less than, greater than, equal to, etc. Let's try whole number, and then we can write a small message here. So what we have done is that we have put in a validation rule. As somebody will enter their age, it will be tested against this rule, and if it is not meeting this rule, an error message, this message that you have typed here, will be shown to the user. So let us try and have a look at a preview of this question and see how validation works. So I'm going to come here and I can type 34.5, and the moment I do this, it comes back and tells me that I have to enter age as a number to the nearest year. If I make this 34, it's perfectly fine. If I type in 34 as text, again it's unhappy. It is telling me enter your age as a number to the nearest year. So it's performing some kind of validation, and once I have put in the correct figure, only then it will permit me to move out of this particular field. If this field was a required field, I would be compelled to enter whatever the rule validates. So this is how you can validate some entry in the form. Let us go back and have a look at a few other possibilities. Let us say, in case instead of age, I want to pick up somebody's email. And so I will come here and click on text. And this also opens up a lot of possibilities. I can choose email and I can say enter correct email. This is not a thorough check, but it does some kind of check. So if somebody is not writing the @ symbol, for example, this is going to object in a similar way and say that you have to write email in the correct format. Likewise, if you ask somebody to submit a profile URL, so you can come here and click on URL. So it will make sure that the URL has some dots. Again, I try to test this and it is not perfect, but it does some amount of checking. What you can also do is to come down and test for length. Say, for example, we have asked people to enter PIN code, and we can say that the minimum character count will be equal to 6, because, say, for example, in India, the PIN code is 6 characters long. Enter 6 PIN code digits. So this can test for length. So the thing is that this is minimum, so people can enter more. So it's not a complete check, but then it will not let you enter less than 6 characters. You can of course change it to 5 characters. In many countries the PIN code might be 5 characters, and so on and so forth. And I'll just show you one final thing. So if, suppose, for example, you wanted to have mobile number. So if you wanted to validate this mobile number, we can come and choose response validation. And if we wanted to make sure that it has to be 10 characters long, we can enter a regular expression here. And the same can also be done for PIN if we want it to be very, very precise. And we will just come here and say matches. And this is a little bit more involved. I will include a link in the description of this video that will tell you more patterns. So you have to enter a pattern. And what I'm going to do is I'm picking up a pattern that has been defined by Google Forms, 0-9 and a square bracket closing up. So what I'm saying is that the first digit should be a number between 0 and 9. I've pasted this 10 times and it is indicating that I'm expecting 10 numbers. This is a pattern. So I have given a pattern. I'm expecting 10 numbers and each digit has to be between 0 and 9. So of course you can change this from 0 to 6 or 7, 6 to 9 or 7 to 9 as per your requirement. And then let us give a custom error message. Enter a 10-digit mobile number. So you can actually supply prefabricated patterns that Google Forms permits, and I have included a link and you can study that link, and you can perform a more precise validation. So let us just try to see how this will work out. I'm going to preview. So this mobile number, let me clear this off, and I'm just typing in like 776589, and as I move out it says enter a 10-digit mobile number. So I will come here, and the moment I put in my 10-digit mobile number, that error message goes away. So you can enter a pattern here, a permitted pattern, and you can also validate using a regular expression. We took the example of PIN. We could have done 6 such numbers instead of 10 and repeat 0 to 9 within square brackets 6 times to ensure that people are entering a 6-digit number. Each digit would have the number ranging from 0 to 9. And of course, you can change this depending upon your situation or what constitutes a valid PIN number or mobile number. So you can change these accordingly. So you can perform some degree of validation on certain fields using response validation if you so desire. So once we are all done, we can now press the send button and click on this button here. You will see that the link to this form is available. You can copy it. Better still, you can shorten the link because this is a very long link. If you click on this button, it will give you a shorter version of that link, which you can copy and then email to potential respondents. So I hope this first part of the Google Forms tutorial was useful. In part 2, I will demonstrate how to use Google Forms to create and administer an online quiz. See you in part 2. Thanks for watching.